Carpenter to kick things away. And they will start the Hoosiers, that is, at the 25. Now, Peyton Ramsey, the sophomore quarterback, completing his passes at one of the highest rates in the conference. Again, under center tonight for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, he's done a nice job. He split time last week with Michael Penix, and Michael Penix is out for the season with a knee injury. But Peyton Ramsey's at his best when he's getting the ball out of his hand quickly. When he gets in situations where he's forced to push the ball down the field all too often, he finds his completion percentage falling off a little bit. You see right there, 68.5% of his passes are being completed, and it's all about getting his ball out of getting the ball out of his hands quickly.
And will they be able to protect him? He's been sacked 17 times this year. The Big Ten quarterback has been sacked more right away through the air to Harris. Pickup of 7 on the first play. And who we watch for when the Hoosiers have the ball, Evan?
Yeah, when Indiana has the ball, they have a number of different receivers they like to throw to, but it starts with Stevie Scott. He's the guy, he's their bell cow on offense. 26 carries for 138 yards last week. And then Watt Fillier's back from injury. Done a really nice job for them this year. And the sack leader of the Big Ten on the Minnesota side is Carter Coughlin. Very active. Have to keep an eye on him throughout the night.
Ramsey to pass once again. Incomplete. Right near the first down marker, looking for Donovan Hale, who has been a hot target. 9 catches the last 2 games for Hale. Brings up 3rd and 3 for the Hoosiers on the opening possession tonight. Ramsey, a stud high school quarterback in Cincinnati, played for his father there. Empty set here on 3rd and 3. Ramsey steps up, and he picks up the first down with his legs out towards midfield. He gains 10 for a first down.
Yeah, one of the challenges for the Minnesota defense is, especially on 3rd down, if they're going to let you go man-to-man and their defenders get their back turned to the quarterback like you see right there, you got to be careful about Peyton Ramsey. The mobility he has allowed him to gain first down just like that on 3rd down throughout the year when a team goes man-to-man.
He is Indiana's 2nd leading rusher behind, of course, Stevie Scott, yet to get a carry so far. He's in the backfield, coming off a monster game against the Nittany Lions, nearly 140 yards and 2 scores. Ramsey to pass again to the sideline and underthrows his intended target. Looking that time for Nick Westbrook, Hoosiers' leading receiver.
Yeah, one of the things to keep an eye on, Aaron, is this secondary for Minnesota is banged up. Their best player earlier in the season, they lost Antoine Whitfield Jr., and then recently they lost Antonio Chenot. And one of the things we've seen early on so far in this game is then getting up to the line of scrimmage and challenging these receivers. It's not something I expected given how banged up they are on the back end, but they're putting a lot of faith in these guys right now.
Design rollout, they find Stevie Scott out of the backfield. Not really a popular target in the passing game. Thomas Barber brings him down. Scott to pick up a 6 on the reception.
Well, I think the reason for that is the number of receivers they have. I mean, they have 6 legitimate guys to throw to, and we're going to see all these guys showcased over the course of the day. From Donovan Hale to Nick Westbrook to Ty Freifogel, Jayshon Harris, Watt Fillier, and Luke Timian. All these guys have between 20 and 25 catches on the year, and all of them contribute equally over the course of the year.
Looking for Magette. Instead, Ramsey, for the 2nd time of this opening drive, picks up the first down with his legs. He moves the chains again. He gains 8 on the play that time.
Yeah, on the defensive side of the ball, this Minnesota defense is going to have to be careful on how much they take their eyes off the quarterback. That's the 2nd time where he's been able to run free and pick up extra yards with his legs. I mean, that, and a lot of times for a quarterback that's not that mobile, that ends up being a coverage sack, but Peyton Ramsey able to get outside and pick up the first down.
First give to Stevie Scott on 1st and 10, going nowhere. And your keys for Indiana, Evan.
Yeah, for Indiana, coming off of last week against Penn State, it's avoid those self-inflicted wounds. That's been a problem for them. A lot of holding penalties last week, some turnovers, untimely turnovers, and then utilize a wealth of options. They have a number of guys at receiver that can catch the ball. And then keep your eye on Carter Coughlin, number 45, the rush end for Minnesota, has wreaked havoc on offenses all year long.
Over the middle, pass complete, and just shy of the first down, finding Timian for the first time tonight. He gained 6.
Yeah, we've seen a surprising amount of man-to-man coverage so far tonight. And Luke Timian, the slot receiver, who's had his share of injuries so far this year, but he's back and he's healthy. They really trust him in the slot. Does a nice job right there of running the shallow cross, getting away from the defender and bringing in the catch.
11 catches for Timmy in the last 2 weeks. Missed 3 weeks because of injury. They're happy to have him back. 10 goals for Watt Fillier. Design rollout. Pass complete. To the 20, finding Jay-Sean Harris, the Hoosiers punt returner. Picks up 6 that time, and pretty impressive opening drive for Indiana.
Yeah, what we've seen so far is what Peyton Ramsey does well, and that's use his legs to extend plays and improvise when he needs to, and also getting the ball out of his hand quickly. You're not going to see many plays 15 or more yards down the field with this Indiana offense. They're going to try to be efficient, get out of his hands quick, and move it down the field, just like they've done on this drive.
A 10th play of the drive coming up here, and the give to Scott, who turns up field. Almost was able to break free.
Nice tackle there on the backside, because after coming out of Nebraska last week, one of the biggest issues this Minnesota defense had was tackling. They counted with their staff 18 missed tackles, and Nebraska just ran wild all over. Critical for them to start tackling a little better tonight against Stevie Scott in this offense.
Left side, and kind of a poor throw, trying to find Freifogel there. He's able to adjust and make the catch. We take a look now at Tom Allen, a couple of second-year head coaches in this game. A native of Newcastle, Indiana, former defensive coordinator turned head coach for the Hoosiers. Hoosiers have been in some games. They were in it in Columbus against Ohio State and nearly upset Penn State last week in Bloomington. On 3rd and 3. Scott out of the backfield, his second catch this drive, and he appears to be short. No gain on the play. Kamal Martin, an elite pass rusher, so PJ Fleck says, in on the pressure. Fourth and 3 coming now. So a bend but don't break for this Gophers defense. This is from 33. Logan Justice, just 1 field goal attempt over the last 2 weeks. 8 for 10 on the season. And Justice able to split the uprights and put it through. So the opening drive.
Groups, they want to see that return on investment when it comes to their special teams unit.
Jared Smoller, sophomore out of Valparaiso, kick things away. Demetrius Douglas to return. At the 10. Douglas will bring it just shy of the 25. First possession coming here as Tanner Morgan, the redshirt freshman, makes his first career start. Zach Anixted, an internal injury. He was okay, went to the hospital, but especially on a short week, unable to start tonight, unavailable. So it is Morgan to get the start.
Yeah, doesn't have a ton of experience on the field in game situations. He's been in this system for over a year. The coaches feel good about it. They feel like he did some good things last week. It's going to be key for him to take care of the football. Indiana has taken the ball away 16 times on the season. They lead the Big 12 in takeaways. And so it's critical for a young quarterback that doesn't have a ton of game experience to take care of the football.
He is the only scholarship quarterback on the roster. 3 freshman quarterbacks for the Gophers this year. Morgan rolls out, gets rid of it. Bryce Williams getting the start tonight, picks up the first down after a nifty move out to the 40. Pick up a 15.
You got to love that by offensive coordinator Kirk Shiraka. He's got 2 young guys in Bryce Williams and Tanner Morgan that haven't gotten much time this year. Finds a way to get Tanner Morgan an easy completion, and also in the process get the ball to Bryce Williams early and help get him comfortable.
Remember, Mohamed Ibrahim, their top rusher, who against Ohio State ran for nearly 160 and 2 scores, unavailable tonight, injured. How about this? Flea flicker on the second play of the game, and it's complete. Rashad Bateman, the true freshman, comes up with it. Gain of 25.
Hey, look, if you're playing at home on Friday night and you're wearing the goal helmets, why not go to the flea flicker early? Really good timing on the play as well. These things are as much about timing than anything else. And Rashad Bateman does a great job of running away from the defender and going up and getting the football. That ball's thrown behind him a little bit. But Rashad Bateman showing some of the skills that this staff absolutely loves. He's a true freshman, and they say the sky's the limit for this kid. He's from Georgia, big-time recruit for this offense, making a big play early on.
A little more traditional this time around. Who to watch when the Gophers have the ball, Evan?
And when the Gophers have the ball, keep an eye on Bryce Williams. He's had some time this year when Muhammad Ibrahim has been out. He's back in there tonight. And then Tyler Johnson's really their best receiver, coming off a big week last week against Nebraska. And then on the defensive side of the ball for Indiana, keep an eye on Marcelino Ball. He plays that husky, that hybrid safety linebacker position, really ends up all over the field in pass coverage and run support. And this defense goes as he goes. He's their best defensive player, so got to keep an eye on him.
Interesting development here. Seth Green, the Wildcat quarterback, in, and Shannon Brooks is on the field for the first time this year. And it's Green to keep it himself. A converted quarterback turned tight end, turned wide receiver, picks up the first down. He's run for 6 scores so far this year.
Yeah, at 6'4", 240, Seth Green looks the part, and they want to use him as much as they can in a number of different situations. They've also tried him at tight end a little bit, but right now his main role in this offense is carrying the football out of the backfield. Does a nice job of breaking that first tackle and getting meaningful yards on this drive.
He gains 9 to move the chains. So impressive opening drives on both sides. Morgan back into the quarterback. Shannon Brooks. They fake it to him. They complete across. Ottman Bell loses the football. It is recovered. And is he in or not? It's Bateman who gets on top of it, and he is down just shy. A flag is on the field.
Nice physical run. It was difficult to tell. I think that ball was out before his backside hit the ground.
Personal foul, roughing the passer. Defense number 54 will penalize half the distance to the goal. First down.
Jamaris Bowen, who sat out a couple of years ago after transferring from Cincinnati, flagged on the play.
Those are tough. Obviously got there later than he needed to. Ref thought it wasn't necessary. One thing's for sure, they're going to protect the quarterback. That's been pretty clear at all levels of football as of late. That's got to frustrate Tom Allen, though. Unnecessary penalty.
On the battering ram, Seth Green back in. He keeps it, plunges ahead, and he is in for the touchdown.
If you don't like the word young, you're going to get tired of hearing about it this game. We're going to say it 100 more times. The youth on this Minnesota team is everywhere.
Blake Cashman saving a big run there, potentially from Stevie Scott. He picks up 5 instead. Cashman, the leading tackler, had 13 at Ohio State. Former high school safety who went completely unrecruited and walked on here in Minnesota. Quick hitter, almost intercepted. Dangerous pass, looking for Whop Fillier, his first target. Jordan Howden. Howden taking on a big role, true freshman walk-on.
Yeah, the young guy steps up nicely. Reads the route by the defender, steps up and makes a play. Ball thrown nicely by Peyton Ramsey, too. A little bit behind to stop him from getting to the defender.
Howden having to replace Antoine Winfield Jr., who was done for the year with foot surgery. It's a big part of this defense for the Gophers. 3rd and 5 here. Towards the sideline, is able to find Luke Timian. Ball is out and whistled down on the ground. First down for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, Aaron, one of the things we mentioned is Peyton Ramsey and his propensity to get the ball out quickly, and that's when he's at his best. And I think that's why, like in this picture right here, you're seeing these Minnesota defensive backs get up at the line of scrimmage and challenge these receivers early. If they play off like they have in the past, they find themselves susceptible to quick throws, and that's when Peyton Ramsey is at his best.
Quickly get it out. Timian once again trying to turn upfield, and he does.
And look, the interesting thing yesterday when we had a chance, to talk to the Minnesota defensive coordinator, Rob Smith, as we asked, okay, do you expect yourself to tighten up at the line of scrimmage? And he was hesitant to say yes to that because he said, look, when we've done that in the past, we've allowed big plays. Allowing explosives, especially against Nebraska, was an issue for them. They allowed 10 plays of over 20 yards. So he feels good about it so far, asking his defense to tighten up at the line. We'll see if they can hold up over the course of the night.
Empty set again for Ramsey. Over the middle in stride, well shy of the first down, finding Donovan Hale. You look at that game for Minnesota. Of course, they really hung in so tight in Columbus. Then they go to Lincoln. They give up nearly 660 yards. You can see the numbers here. They were terrible on third down. 10 plays of 20 yards or more.
And a lot of that came in the running game as well. They struggled against Nebraska in that rushing attack. One of the things about Peyton Ramsey you have to applaud him for is he is very disciplined and willing to take the easy throw. He'll dink and dunk you to death. A lot of quarterbacks get impatient. He has no problem continuing to take those easy throws over the course of the game.
Well, he needs 4 yards here on third down. Has some time over the middle and caught in traffic. That time he finds Ja'Shawn Harris. His third catch picks up the first down.
And the reason that strategy works is guys like Ja'Shawn Harris that work the middle of the field along with Watt Fillier and Luke Timian. These guys as slot players have some suddenness to them, have a burst in and out of their breaks. They do a good job of getting separation over the middle of the field and really mimic the role a really good tight end would have in an offense like this. They own the middle of the field. Indiana doesn't really throw to their tight ends much, so they utilize these slot receivers really well.
Ramsey buying time, throwing across field and almost intercepted. Terrell Smith got his hands on it. And talk about the dink and dunk, which would explain why last week against Penn State, nearly an upset win for the Hoosiers at home. 100 plays that they ran.
100 plays is right. They're going to get a lot of them off, too. They're almost another forced error there. They want to get plays off quickly. They want to use a little more tempo. Neither team's going to huddle here tonight, but Indiana's going to use a little more tempo than Minnesota.
A bit of a hurdle from Stevie Scott, who picks up the first down. He hasn't had much of a workload so far tonight. 14 yards on that carry.
Well, I think the reason is Minnesota's playing tight to the line of scrimmage with a single high safety. And so Indiana's opted to throw it a little more than they have in the past. But Stevie Scott's going to get going here tonight. Really impressive for a true freshman to shoulder the load they've asked him to shoulder so far this year. Tough kid, and boy, is he built. Most freshmen don't come in built like that. He's able to handle the load they want him to take.
He gets it again. Scott, wide open hole. Shoestring tackle won't work on Stevie Scott. Inside the 15, he leads all true freshmen of the nation in carries. Second in yards, fourth in touchdowns, picks up 22 this time.
Look, he doesn't have great speed, but when he puts his foot in the ground, like right there, and gets vertical, he's got great vision, great patience, and good change of direction. Speed is not an asset for him, but he gets his yards by being a downhill runner and being decisive.
This is a full media timeout.
100 offensive plays, but again, it was the miscues that took this team down. A gut-wrenching loss, according to Tom Allen.
Got pushed forward to the 10. Most plays run in a game by a Big Ten offense since 2005, by the way.
Yeah, you've seen the tempo here tonight. You know, we mentioned earlier, neither team's going to huddle, but Minnesota does it mainly because they don't switch personnel all that much, and they want to get up to the line, do some check with me's, and look over the line for the play. But Indiana, on the other hand, they want to get some tempo, and they average snapping it right around the 18-second mark on the play clock.
An injury here for the Hoosiers. Coy Cronk, who up until he started at Ohio State, where he was injured in that game, had started 32 consecutive games and had to miss the next one. Left tackle for the Hoosiers. Going to come off the field.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on now. They got Caleb Jones in there now. They have Delroy Baker in there when Coy Cronk was hurt a couple weeks ago. Struggled a little bit at the left tackle position, so we've got to keep an eye on Caleb Jones with Carter Coughlin over the top of him, the sack leader in the Big 12.
Hoosiers' first drive was 13
Big
plays,
10,
resulted in a field goal. This the 11th play of the drive. Scott lowers his pads, shy of the 5-yard line. Picks up 3 or 4 runs into Jacob Huff.
You know, we mentioned Carter Coughlin. He's a guy that's going to show up here at some point tonight. He's very disruptive, both in the pass and the run game. Quite honestly, I mean, most of it is just straight up effort. He plays till the whistle every single time, and he is all over the place.
Indiana 5 for 6 on third down. They need 3 here. They can get a first down inside the 3. To the back of the end zone, jump ball, and incomplete. Jordan Howden all over Nick Westbrook.
Another nice play by Jordan Howden, playing the ball in the air. They run the inside fade with Nick Westbrook. He's kind of their main 50-50 ball catcher guy. They'll throw it up to him in the end zone, let him go up and make a play. That's 6'3", 215 pounds. But Jordan Howden does a nice job of timing that up. At least it appeared from there. The question is, did he get there too early? Because then you wonder if it could have been a pass interference call. But nice job breaking that play up by the young guy.
Justice made from 33. This one for 24. And he is true again. So the offense so far, some long, lengthy drives for Tom Allen and the Hoosiers, both resulting in Logan Justice field goals. And Indiana within 1 with just over a minute to play here in the first quarter. Well, tomorrow on FS1, TCU takes on Kansas at 3 p.m. Eastern. Then Jake Browning and the 15th ranked Huskies will take on Cal at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. It's coming your way tomorrow on FS1, or you can always watch anywhere on the Fox Sports app.
It's an impressive few plays by the Minnesota secondary. They've allowed over 1,000 yards combined the last 3 games, 10 touchdowns and 1 interception in the secondary. And they're trying to find the best scheme for this young group. We were talking to PJ Fleck yesterday, and he referenced the fact that, you know, sometimes we try to get a little too cute schematically. We try to move guys around and compensate for the fact that we have injuries and whatnot. He said, you know what, this week we're just going to play them straight up. We're going to go out and let these guys cut it loose. We don't want them thinking at all. And so far, what it's been is a lot of man-to-man and trying to just disrupt that quick passing game from Indiana. Give these guys credit for not allowing any big plays down the field as well.
Demetrius Douglas from his own 5. And sandwiched at the 25.
20-yard return for
now, Tanner Morgan, the redshirt freshman who played in the second half last week in Lincoln, getting his first career start.
Yeah, they rolled him out earlier for an easy completion to Bryce Williams. You'd be amazed at how much that helps these guys to get comfortable. And then the flea flicker down the field to Rashad Bateman. Really nice throw, letting the young guy go up and make a play. A nice RPO package over the middle to Chris Ottman-Bell for a completion. See a little bit of that as well, these run-pass options from the Minnesota offense. And while Tanner Morgan is not necessarily a dual threat quarterback, there's a little more mobility there than with Zach Annexstad, who had an ankle injury for most of the year.
And off to Shannon Brooks. Brooks fumbles. It is recovered by the Hoosiers. Mike Barwick Jr. That's the 17th takeaway this season for Indiana. They do the Big Ten.
When I'm going to play a kid for the first time in a season, this is Shannon Brooks. This is his first time getting carries this year. The one thing that's going to come to mind, especially in these type of conditions, is ball security. And I can promise you PJ Fleck was concerned about it coming into the game, because they don't get to tackle him in practice. And so these are the first live reps he's had all year long after an injury in the spring and some disciplinary issues as of late. And his first carry coughs it up.
Turnover, a takeaway rather, for the Hoosiers in every game this year. And if you go back to last season now, 15 straight games. Short field ahead for Ramsey and the Hoosiers now. He sets, plants, he wants it all. Back to the end zone, and almost a terrific catch in traffic by Nick Westbrook. Covered there by Jacob Huff. A rare senior.
Well, the rare shot down the field from Peyton Ramsey as well. Most of what we've seen has been inside of 10 yards. Is it a little bit behind him, doesn't get out in front of him, and Jacob Huff has great timing getting there to break up the play.
On 2nd and 10, this is Ronnie Walker, his first carry. Walker, a huge recruit for the Hoosiers, a true freshman. One of their biggest recruits in years, really. Picks up 11 on his first carry. Formed a very good relationship with Mike Hart, former Michigan running back, now the running back coach for Indiana. They feed Walker again. He is stonewalled this time. Shows Indiana over Daniel from Michigan State as well. He loses a yard.
Yeah, you referenced being a true freshman. It's a chance for him to come out tonight and learn from mistakes. I mean, last week had, in Penn State territory, a big turnover, a fumble that really changed the pace of the game and changed the trajectory of the game for this Indiana offense. It's good to see him back out there tonight, getting a chance to redeem himself a little bit.
That will end it for the first.
We're a quarter in. They're on pace for over 100 again.
Ramsey to pass to the end zone, and he overthrows Ty Freifogel.
Yeah, it was a double move to Chris Ottman-Bell. He had him beat, too. It was a too deep safety look. The safety didn't get enough width. All he has to do is drop that right by that pylon. That's a touchdown. Gotta wonder if the weather is impacting his ability to get the ball out quickly like he normally would, but he certainly had a chance there. That's a missed opportunity.
Had the slightly underthrown ball to Westbrook in the end zone that the rising figure would have been caught. 3rd and long. Donovan Hale is smacked right away. Met by Kamal Martin. Pickup of just 1.
Well, if you're PJ Fleck and Rob Smith, you have to be happy with the energy on this defense so far. Getting up and challenging receivers at the line of scrimmage and not giving anything easy. Now, some of the plays that Indiana had, some of the shorter stuff, they're given to them, but they've done a nice job down the field making plays and also tackling relative to last week versus Nebraska.
This from 41. Season long is 44 for Justice. And Justice is having himself a night. He's hit from 24, from 33, and now from Indiana now leading on a trio of field goals. We go down to the field to Jen Hale. Jen, this has been a sore subject special teams for Indiana, but maybe not tonight.
Indeed, it has, Aaron. They went ahead and made some significant adjustments to personnel. They added linebacker James Miller to this coverage. It's his first game to play. They also moved sophomore Marcialano Ball into the coverage as well. The idea was they wanted to get some bigger bodies, some more speed, and so far the change is certainly working. You can see the difference in that first quarter this week versus how they played last week.
And kickoff coverage such an issue a week ago. Meanwhile, Justice 3 for 3, already a career high in field goals in a single game. Douglas retreats into his own end zone to take a knee. Gophers beginning from the 25.
I think it's also worth noting for Indiana, special teams wise, the good things they did last week. They were able to sniff out a fake punt, made a stop on that, and then pin the opposing team inside the 10-yard line a couple times on punt coverage. Obviously, they've been good in the kicking game as well. So Tom Allen will be the first to remind you, hey, yeah, we got to shore up kickoff coverage. There's no question about that. But there are other things that we've done well as a unit. It's just kickoff coverage issues really, they can cost you football games, and that happened last week.
Morgan hands off, and Bryce Williams met right away. Stonewall, Gavin Everett, the senior defensive end right there.
Yeah, but Everett does a nice job of splitting the double team between Jared Weiler and Connor Olson.
It's a loss of 2. This is a defense for Indiana that lost 8 starters from last year's defensive squad. A lot of change, that plus injuries this year. And off once again to Williams, trying to turn up field, and is upended at about the 25. Minimal pickup to bring up 3rd and long. He met Raheem Lane there, the quarterback.
Yeah, one thing we're seeing the Indiana defense do is really get up to the line of scrimmage in that box and really stress this run game for the Minnesota offense. That time put about 7 guys in the box, and it was single high and manned up on the outside. At some point, I know weather doesn't make this very easy, but Minnesota has to take some shots to these outside receivers and loosen up the box of that defense.
First 3rd down tonight for the Gophers. Tanner Morgan 3 for 3, only 3 attempts. He's completed all of them. Redshirt freshman making his first career start tonight. To pass on 3rd and 8. Able to find Bateman. Bateman spins, but comes up just shy That brings up 4th down for the Gophers. He picks up 7.
Yeah, we talked about the high ceiling for Rashad Bateman. Does a really nice job of running the crossing route and using all those defenders on the inside as kind of a natural pick. You see number 17 have to go around everybody. And this is a tackle that he's going to get better at, learn how to break. Young guys, those shoestring tackles over time, as he gets stronger and become more seasoned at this level of play, he's going to break that tackle eventually and turn that into a much bigger play.
4th and 1 now.
Timeout. Minnesota. This is their second of the half. This is
Minnesota wants to think about
timeout.
things. Gophers able to convert. Tanner Morgan back in at quarterback. Morgan originally a commit to Western Michigan with PJ Fleck, but followed Fleck here to Minnesota. He hands it off. Quick cut right upfield by Brooks. Brooks, a really interesting story worth diving into a little bit. Having missed the first 6 games of the season because of an ACL injury suffered in spring ball. He was all set to play. At least the plan was for him to get some time last week at Nebraska. There was an incident at his apartment. The police were called. He was arrested. As it turned out, it was a domestic issue with his male roommate. No one was injured. Nobody was hurt. No property damage. No nothing. PJ Fleck, the coaching staff, they've had almost 2 weeks since the incident to think things over. He did not play Nebraska, did not travel to Lincoln as a result, but now is the time for him to play.
Yeah, I know they're pleased to have him back on the field. He's certainly one of the team's better football players.
Quick shot and complete. Able to get the big play that time. Demetrius Douglas, 3 catches last week at Nebraska, just 1 over his first 6 games.
Yeah, Demetrius Douglas does a nice job of pushing up on the defender and putting his body in between the ball and the defender and using that big body to make a play. And a nice throw by Tanner Morgan. I've seen him throw it a ton with a lot of efficiency yet today, but a nice throw over the middle of the field.
It's a gain of 17. Morgan 5 for 5 for 85 yards. Morgan the rollout, firing to the sideline and complete, finding Bateman this time. This has been an issue recently, Evan. You look at the last couple of games for Minnesota, and then it's drive stalling out.
Yeah, it is. Nice throw there on the run. I think the other thing we need to acknowledge, obviously having Shannon Brooks out here is key. This team lost Raji Smith early in the season as well to a knee injury. He was their #1 running back coming into the season. And so they've had to rely a lot on Muhammad Ibrahim, who's not out here today. And now Bryce Williams, and having Shannon Brooks back should provide them with a big boost moving forward.
Now Smith over almost 3,000 career yards, a huge loss. Quick cut, first down, tumbling forward. Shannon Brooks playing his first game of the year, picks up 5.
Yeah, runs right behind the big man, Daniel Fa'alele, the true freshman. 6'9", 400 pounds, number 78 there on the end. That's a big boy that only played 1 year of organized football prior to arriving here in Minnesota, and he's done an outstanding job for them so far from IMG Academy down in Florida.
And not only had he only played 1 year before, he really almost had no concept to even the basic rules of the game before a year ago. Stiff arm doesn't get Brooks very far.
Brooks ball carrier.
Out of the face mask of Khalil Bryant. Gain of 3. We talked about him getting his first carries this year, Shannon Brooks that is, but one of the questions is, what is he going to look like coming off an ACL injury? Yes, that happened before spring ball, but nonetheless, his first game test tonight.
Yeah, a lot of the discussion has centered around off-the-field issues over the last couple of weeks, but you said it, he tore his ACL in the spring, and getting him back on the field, these were his first meaningful game live reps. So obviously ball security was an issue early, but got to get the cobwebs out and get him some more carries and get him rolling.
And of course, a slick playing surface for the guy coming off an ACL. 10th play of the drive here. Almost caught, dropped Ottman Bell. Marcelino Ball right there in the coverage.
Yeah, on the bend, this is similar to the route he threw Demetrius Douglas a minute ago. Runs a slant over the middle of the field, leaves it just a little bit behind him. Maybe puts that out in front of him. Ottman Bell probably snags that and maybe gets all the way to the end zone, but putting it on his back hip with Marcelino Ball in coverage gives him the opportunity to break that ball up.
First incompletion from Morgan. We are yet to say the name of Tyler Johnson, number 6 for the Gophers, the Big Ten's second leading receiver. With time, over the middle. Caught in stride, tumbling almost to the 10. First down, as Douglas has been a popular target on this drive.
Yeah, Indiana.
Oh, good to see Marcelino Ball upright on the sideline. He intended to. Looks like going inside the locker room.
It's a tough physical play here. And, you know, he plays fast and he plays hard, and these are the kind of hits that can happen. And boy, that doesn't look good. I sure hope he's okay. He's a very, very important part to this defense. And in steps in for him Cam Jones, the true freshman from Memphis, Tennessee. And he's got a big responsibility. That hybrid safety linebacker position is really important for this defense.
Seth Green, the Wildcat quarterback, back in. Trying to get back to the line of scrimmage. Green has rushed for the game's only touchdown. Picks up just one.
Aaron, and what Marcelino Ball allows them to do is not have to sub. You know, he can be a linebacker or he can be a safety. He can be more of a defensive back type position or a linebacker, that husky position they're talking about. So you can keep him on the field and essentially move from one personnel group to the other without subbing. And that's a big advantage. And that guy has to be very capable in the run game and the pass game. We'll see if Cam Jones is able to hold up his end of the deal on this thing.
12th play of this drive. First two drives for the Gophers, just 7 plays combined. Morgan changing things up the line. Hands it off Brooks. Brooks a gain of just 3. Brings up third down. Under 7 minutes to play in the first half. Gophers a chance to take the lead with either a field goal or a touchdown.
And you mentioned earlier, we haven't called the name of Tyler Johnson at all. Typically finds himself in the slot, number 6. Works the middle of the field really well. Usually finding the matchups, and now he's isolated one-on-one with Jonathan Crawford out of the Indiana secondary.
He can pick up a first down at the 3. Morgan looking end zone, right to the chest, caught, touchdown. Touchdown strike for 8 yards. The score. Gophers back on top. And right when we were talking about him, Tyler Johnson, the conference's 2nd leading receiver.
And boy, this is not an easy throw. Tanner Morgan ends up rolling it out to his right a little bit, throwing back to his left. But the route by Tyler Johnson is absolutely outstanding. He pushes for width on the corner after the switch release. You watch right here. Watch him push for width, put his foot in the ground, and come back in. And Rashad Bateman does a really nice job of clearing out that inside throwing lane and moving that inside safety to give a nice throwing lane for Tanner Morgan. Really nice throw.
First career touchdown pass for Morgan. The redshirt freshman making his first start tonight. 14-9 Gophers. Now, Tanner Morgan threw for over 10,000 yards in his high school career. He comes up with his first college touchdown pass right here to Johnson for 8 yards. Longest scoring drive by time this season. 7:46 the Gophers chewed off the clock.
Yeah, that's big for the Minnesota offense. As this game was going up until that drive, Indiana was really dominating time of possession and getting a ton of plays off. Quality drive for them to be able to put that together and end it with a touchdown.
Carpenter to kick things away. Gophers back on top 14-9. The jet ready to return. We'll watch it sail to the back of the end zone. Let's go back to that touchdown.
Now the touchdown play, really, really good execution in the end zone. Watch Rashad Bateman to clear out Jonathan Crawford, the safety. And Tyler Johnson gets just enough width and puts that foot in the ground and comes back on the angle route. And it's a really nice throw by Tanner Morgan. You'll see here, he gets some interior pressure. He wants to throw that thing from that spot. Ends up rolling out to his right, staying with Tyler Johnson the entire time. Really good execution by a quarterback and a wide receiver there. That's about as good as it gets inside the 10-yard line.
Well, there's no better example of throwing to a receiver in his numbers than what we just saw there. Right to the chest. Impressive first half. Ramsey takes it, spins. Able to make a little something out of nothing. Picks up 2. First 3 possessions, 3 field goals. Logan Justice, his latest from 41 yards out. Ramsey on the roll, squares his shoulders and completes. This time able to find Ja'Shawn Harris, his 4th catch here in the first half. First down for the Hoosiers. Harris, who has come off of his 3rd ACL injury, a pickup of 8.
That's amazing.
Punt returner as well. Good move upfield. Stevie Scott past the 45. He'll move the chains again. Picks up 11. Scott's had some big runs tonight.
Yeah, that time it was the threat that Peyton Ramsey presents in keeping the football. Carter Coughlin stayed with Peyton Ramsey, left open that backside gap. And Stevie Scott does a nice job putting his foot up the ground and going the other direction and getting good yards.
Averaging 8 and a carry. They feed him again on 1st and 10. Out to almost midfield. Now Scott was a guy who was injured his senior year in high school. Didn't get to play nearly as much as he would have liked. Was recruited by some schools, including Minnesota, as a linebacker as well. And with his build, you can understand why.
Yeah, he's an impressive-looking young man. He sure does look the part without even having a chance to go through a full offseason of strength conditioning with this team. It's a big boy.
There's a reverse. And to Fillier, who has not touched the ball much tonight. And he is taken down for a big-time loss. It's a loss of 10.
Yeah, another impressive indicator on the improvements from last week for the Minnesota defense with Coney Durr getting out and making a tackle in open space. He's one of the guys in the secondary last week that really struggled to find their way against the Nebraska offense.
And some missed tackles.
Yeah, he diagnoses that play with Walt Fillier and gets out and makes a tackle in the open field. Really big-time play.
Now what do you have dialed up here on 3rd and 16?
Not a whole lot of plays in the playbook for this, other than not making a mistake.
Past midfield near the 1st down marker, but clearly shy. It's a gain of 13. This time they find Fillier for a positive gain.
Yeah, that was probably had a sticks call attached to it, where ideally you want Walt Fillier to get up and set up right at the sticks for a 1st down. Finds himself just a little bit short. Looks like Indiana's going to punt it.
First time we've seen Hayden Whitehead so far tonight. Demetrius Douglas is back. Well, they haven't returned many punts. You see the number here, 25, almost 26 yards per punt return, best in the country. They've only returned 7 all year. That's where they'll stay for now, at least. And what a pretty roll right here to the 1. You can't do much better than that. The Aussie, Hayden Whitehead. A touch inside the 1. Back to Los Angeles. To Rob Stone.
Coming up on the State Farm halftime, you'll see why Coach Wannstedt had bad vibes about the U in Boston. We'll get the latest from Norman ahead of the Sooners' Saturday showdown. And is Michigan the best one-loss team in the country? Aaron, Evan, see you guys at the break.
All right, Rob, good stuff. Checking in with you shortly. 3:16 to play here in the first half. Minnesota leading 14-9. $99 yards ahead. Try to get a little breathing room here from Brooks. Picks up a couple.
Yeah, this is that backed up situation that you practice quite a bit in practice. And the objective here is to just get that first down, because ideally what you want to do is give your punter a little more room to punt in the event you have to do that. So that's always the objective in practice in these types of situations. Get that first down and give us a little bit of breathing room, like you said.
Only 46 yards on the ground so far for Minnesota. Nearly 100 tonight rushing for Indiana. Of course, Bryce Williams started the game, but the last couple of series or drives has been almost exclusively Brooks. Morgan to pass, complete. First down, big field ahead. How far can he go? Tripped up. And a second catch tonight from Johnson, the first a touchdown. This time nearly a game breaker. Pick up a 51.
Well, we knew he'd explode eventually. He has back-to-back 100-yard games coming into this game. And this truly is an RPO scheme right here. The linebacker steps up from the run fake, and they're able to hit Tyler Johnson right behind that linebacker that vacates that void, and he takes care of the rest. That's a big-time play. 500-yard games on the season. He's a big threat for them over the course of the game. I expected to go to him more.
This is their first of the half. This is a 30-second timeout.
With 2 minutes to play in the first half, Tom Allen and the Hoosiers take a timeout. Johnson breathing heavy.
Yeah, these pass schemes that we see so often in college football right now, I realize this acronym is used all the time. We talk about RPOs, run pass options, but it puts defensive players in such a bind because the offensive line is essentially blocking the run. They don't know if the ball's going to be handed off or not. And Tanner Morgan decides to pull it and find Tyler Johnson in that void, and it turns into a big play for number 6.
And Juwan Burgess is the man on his heels and just gets enough to trip him up.
Yeah, we talked about coming into this game. He had 705 yards, and that was number 2 in the Big Ten. Without question, one of the more explosive players, and they've really found a nice niche for him on the inside with plays just like that.
Brooks makes the first man miss to the second level. Good pickup on first down. Gain of 4.
Yeah, we talked about the time that Shannon Brooks has missed so far this year, but it's important to note too, he's a guy that had 2,500 all-purpose yards coming into this year in his career. He's made a lot of plays for this offense, and PJ Fleck is more than thrilled to have him back. Now, it's about managing the workload too. I mean, these are his first live reps, and so it'll be interesting to see how many carries he gets over the course of the night.
Looking to pass and incomplete. Almost held on to that time by Rashad Bateman. Damian Willis right there. Devon Matthews as well. 3rd and 6.
Brandon Wilson on the defensive line for Indiana either got an incredible jump or they missed an offsides call. Boy, he timed that up perfectly, and if he's able to somehow estimate when they're going to snap that ball, they might have to vary these snap counts a little bit, because he got a big jump on that play.
After the pass play of 51 yards to Johnson, now 3rd and 6. And a whistle.
Timeout, Indiana. This is their second charge timeout of the half. This is a 30-second timeout.
Each side with 1 timeout remaining. Coming up on the State Farm halftime show, Rob Stone, Dave Wanstead, Matt Leinart, Robert Smith back in Los Angeles. Hurricanes traveling to Boston College. A preview of number 8 Oklahoma's Big 12 battle. Who is the best one-loss team in FBS? We'll be talking about that coming up shortly from now.
Boy, that is a good question, because it's getting interesting. 5 unbeatens this year in FBS. Obviously Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson finding themselves in that situation, but it's the one-loss teams, both in the Big Ten, the Big 12, and also the Pac-12, that's going to make this thing really interesting down the stretch when we talk about the college football playoff and all those implications.
3rd and 6 here. Morgan slings it out to Brooks upfield, and he's got the first down right by the sticks.
That's a good physical run by Shannon Brooks, and he looks like he's getting more and more comfortable over the course of the game every time he touches the ball. It's a nice little flat route, gets it out of his hand quick. Nice throw, allows him to run after the catch.
Back to Johnson, boy, he hit hard. Let's remember, this is a drive that began inside the 1-yard line for the Gophers.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here tonight if you're PJ Fleck, especially coming out of last week, that you have to feel good about with your football team. Most notably some of the play in the secondary and making plays, and on the back end, good timing on breaking up passes, and also, so far, finishing drives. Now finding themselves 2nd and 2 inside the 30-yard line with a chance to put 7 more on the board.
2nd and 1 from the 26. To Brooks, he's got enough. First down, a gain of 7.
They're really using tempo now. We said earlier they'll usually line up and do some check with me's and look at the sideline, but they're trying to get that ball off really quick right now.
The pass right to the numbers again, and in for the touchdown. Second touchdown strike, and both have gone the way of Tyler Johnson.
And you got to love what offensive coordinator Kirk Shiraka is doing with Tanner Morgan, lining up quickly and getting that ball snapped and allowing his receivers to operate. Really nice job by Tyler Johnson, breaking that first tackle and making a play. But we haven't seen this Minnesota offense use this kind of tempo at the line of scrimmage. Yes, we don't see them huddle, but usually that ball is snapped with 8 to 10 seconds left on the play clock. But they're moving quickly right now and trying to get that ball snapped, and Indiana just isn't able to get lined up and figured out who they have.
I'll take a look at this. Now, it was probably less than 8 minutes ago of actual game clock that we were saying, where's Tyler Johnson tonight? Since that time, 4 catches, 87 yards, and 2 scores.
Yeah, he's approaching what would be his 4th straight 100-yard game. And we talked about where he stacks up in this conference in the Big Ten. Very, very dangerous receiver. And look, these guys as a whole, this group with Chris Ottman-Bell, Tyler Johnson, Rashad Bateman, Demetrius Douglas, there's some inexperience there. But if you talk to this Minnesota staff, it's clear they think the world of this crew. And I don't know that Minnesota's had a receiving group like this with this much potential in quite some time. All these guys can make plays, and the more experience they get, the better they're going to be as well.
Where was his knee when that ball was approaching the plane? That's the question here.
After review, the ruling on the field stands. Touchdown.
Second touchdown catch for Tyler Johnson. And an extra point away from making this a 21-9 Minnesota lead going into halftime. Emmett Carpenter, senior from Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's made his last 56 point afters. 21-9. Well, tomorrow UFC Fight Night is on FS1. First round finisher Volkan No Time Ozdemir takes on surging Anthony Lionheart Smith. UFC Fight Night tomorrow 10 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app.
Well, one thing you know when you play a PJ Fleck coach football team here at Minnesota is they're going to be good at not beating themselves. They've been really good with penalties since he arrived. One of the most least penalized teams in the country, and they've been very good on special teams as well when it matters most. It's just generating the explosive plays on offense and also limiting the explosive plays, especially in Big Ten play. That's been an issue for them defensively. Pretty good on defense in their non-conference play. In the Big Ten, it's been difficult for them. But here tonight, they found a way to really slow down this Indiana offense and generate some big plays of their own as well.
A drive that began inside their own 1. They go the length of the field. A jet upended. Ball's down to the 20. It was sailing. How about this? Second quarter, Minnesota 174 yards to the Hoosiers 30.
A 99-yard drive will do that.
Well, 2 very different scoring drives the last 2 times out for the Gophers. They had this nearly 8-minute drive that resulted in 6. Johnson, of course, his first touchdown. And then this drive, under 3 minutes, the length of the field.
Well, you can feel the energy from this team, too. Friday night game, gold helmets. PJ Fleck has these guys flying around.
Much time left here in the first half. This gets strung out. No gain of the play. Ronnie Walker getting the carry that time. It's been 3 field goals here in the first half for Indiana. The offense has been the leg of Logan Justice. And here in the first half, Tanner Morgan getting his first start of his young career. 12 for 14, 203 yards and 2 scores. Both going to Tyler Johnson. P.J. Fleck of the Gophers leading at the half.
12 for 14, 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. And for Indiana, this Minnesota defense has been pretty aggressive. They're going to have to take some shots down the field to try to loosen them up a little bit.
Douglas past the 25. And Russell down just shy of the 30, down to the field to Jen.
More pleased with how his offense performed. The thing he's proud of most when it comes to Tanner Morgan, his decisiveness. Obviously, he's seen Tanner's talent in practice, but he said it's always different when you ask a young player to transition into the spotlight under the pressure. Now, as far as Indiana, this defense is going to have some problems because Marcelino Ball is out for the rest of the game. Cam Jones will continue to fill in for him on defense. They've been aggressively coaching him up on the sidelines. And as far as Ball on special teams, they're going to use a rotation of players to try and replace him.
That's a big loss for Ball. Best starting field position at their own 29 on the night for Minnesota. We ended the first half with that 99-yard touchdown drive. They begin the second half with the ball. Brooks pounds up the middle. Good gain on first down. Pickup of 6. Brooks 80 carries, 40 yards in the first half. His first game action this year. I've seen most of this season so far because of an ACL injury suffered before spring ball.
Yeah, even coming into this game, there was some question about whether or not he would play at all. So to see him get this kind of volume early on, it's an encouraging sign for this offense moving forward.
His value of utmost importance. Mohamed Ibrahim, the leading rusher, who was 3rd on the depth chart to begin the season for the Gophers, injured and unable to play tonight. Brooks makes a couple of minutes, 1-man miss. Now 2 flags come in. They had 1 flag in the first half for no yards.
Yeah, if this one goes back on Minnesota, this will be their first one of the night.
Holding. Offense number 73. 10-yard penalty. Repeat second down.
It's on Daniel Green, who did not start tonight because last week an unsportsmanlike penalty against Nebraska, the 3rd in the last 2 years. P.J. Fleck trying to send a message to his senior from Georgia.
Yeah, they plugged Sam Schluter in on that left side. And Daniel Green over the course of the night has done a nice job. Help them generate these kind of yards. 260 in the first half. It's good efficiency for this offense.
To pass on 2nd and 14. Morgan will now tuck it. Spins to the 30.
Yeah, he wanted to hit Tyler Johnson out in the flat. You watch, the corner just sinks and stays right there, and he gets up in the throwing lane. Good decision to tuck it. A lot of young quarterbacks might not see that corner fall off and might throw that ball into coverage, resulting in an interception. So good job by diagnosing that coverage by Tanner Morgan.
Morgan, the redshirt freshman from Union, Kentucky, the cousin of Tim Couch, former Browns quarterback, former Kentucky quarterback as well, of course. Over the middle, and what a catch, hauled in high above the pads. Demetrius Douglas, his 3rd catch on the night.
Yes, it was a great catch, but the route was even better. It's an option route. He pushes up on the safety, gives a little bit of an outside move, and is able to get some separation. Demetrius Douglas has been matched up on Jonathan Crawford a couple times in the slot tonight. He's got the better of the matchup on more than one occasion.
Now 3 catches last week against Nebraska, 3 tonight. Had just 1 over the first 6 games of this season. That one good for 15. Brooks dives to midfield.
Shannon Brooks, the ball carrier.
Brooks a gain of 4.
Back by 54. Bowen.
Course for the Gophers,
Second out.
losing their last 4 games entering tonight. That after a 3-0 start. They've lost 6 consecutive conference games dating back to last season. Trying to snap that tonight as they lead on the opening drive of the 3rd quarter. Not much room for Brooks. Gains 3. 3rd and 3 coming.
Where at the last second there, they shift their front and bring their middle linebacker Raekwon Jones out on the end of the line of scrimmage and bring Khalil Bryant, the safety, down into the box. And with those kind of run counts, you'd like to see Tanner Morgan at least have the ability to check out of that and give them a better chance to throw the football. It's kind of it's more of a math problem at that point. You got a numbers problem in blocking all these different guys in the pass game as you see Khalil Bryant down there come in the box and run support.
To pass on 3rd down in stride, finding Johnson again. That route is his bread and butter.
Yeah, both these guys, him and Demetrius Douglas, are consistently winning in the slot. That quick slant route, you watch, he'll push up on the defender, give a little bit of an outside move. Well, that's a great route. Gets his hips turned just enough, crosses his face, brings it in for another big play for Tyler Johnson.
It's in front of Raheem Lane. 102 yards, 5 catches down for Johnson. Another 100-yard performance. His 6th this season. Time for the most in single-season school history. Brooks up the middle, good gain.
You know, Tyler Johnson, it's a fun player to watch because there's different types of receivers out there. You have the guys on the outside that are more burners and beat you with their vertical speed, and you have guys like Tyler Johnson that have that burst in and out of their breaks, and they beat you with quickness and suddenness.
Timeout, Indiana. This is their first of the half. This is a full media timeout.
Hoosiers take a timeout. 21-9, Golden Gophers. .37-year-old P.J. Fleck, his 2nd season here in Minneapolis. You can look at what he did at Western Michigan. 1-11 to 11-1 MAC champions. Number 12 ranked in the country, a Cotton Bowl berth. What a turnaround that has been. Trying to do the same here for the Gophers.
That kind of turnaround in 4 years is certainly an amazing feat for a coach in college football. And if you're around him, you can feel the energy, that's for sure. You see how he's able to pull something like that off. He's the eternal optimist, and a lot of charisma P.J. Fleck has.
Or is it just keeping coffee far, far away from P.J. Fleck? Brooks, looks like he got his helmet ripped over there. And there's a flag.
personal foul, face mask, defense number 98, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's on Jerome Johnson, the defensive tackle.
He's able to fall off the right guard, Blaze Andrews, and I thought he was just going to be able to make that play cleanly. Actually, it's difficult to tell if he actually pulled.
I don't think he got the face mask at all there.
Shannon Brooks' head kind of snaps around, making it appear as if he got the face mask. If you watch closely here, I don't think he gets the face mask at all from that angle. Shannon Brooks was able to sell that. Kudos to him for that.
Trying to grind for some yards up the middle.
And again, that would not be a horse collar tackle either. That requires you to grab onto either the nameplate or the shoulder pads from behind. So if he doesn't grab the face mask there, that's a legal tackle.
Gophers.
Sometimes it's just about selling it, though.
He did that. 3 for 3 inside the red zone. 3 touchdowns.
And this is the area where Minnesota's been able to take advantage of some of these man-to-man matchups on the outside, which they have up top. 3 defenders over 3 receivers.
Morgan pressured, ripped down. He is throttled by Damian Willis Jr., the leading tackler.
Oregon sacked by 43, Willis Jr.
Senior from Cleveland, a loss of 8.
Well, the Indiana defense ended up in man-to-man. If Damian Willis is going to come off the edge like he did, you got to get home. You got to get there quickly. And he does that to bring him down for a sack. If Tanner's able to hold onto that ball maybe for another 1 or 2 seconds, if Willis is not successful in getting there that quickly, he's got guys coming open on the back end. So that's a really nice play by Damian Willis.
First sack of the night from either side. Makes it 3rd and 17 now. Ball for 21.
Got to get this thing in a manageable field goal range for your kicker.
Trying to pick up a couple there with Brooks.
By 35, Miles Sykes.
And Carpenter's got a leg. His long this year is 53. His next field goal will be the 2nd most in school history, the 45th.
He had 2 50-plus yarders against Fresno State earlier in the year.
That's from 37. He hit from 50 and 53 against Fresno State this season. From 37, and it's true. Now the 2nd most in Gopher history. Emmett Carpenter adds on to this Minnesota lead. Minnesota fresh off its second scoring drive of 7 minutes. In fact, the earlier one was nearly 8 minutes. Chewing up some clock, capped by a 37-yard field goal by Emmett Carpenter. 4 for 4 in the red zone tonight for the Golden Gophers. They're starting to take a commanding lead over Indiana, 24-9. Under 8 minutes to play in the third quarter.
And when you can finish 3 drives in the end zone, PJ Fleck, you're very pleased with the performance of your quarterback so far and these receivers.
Over Majette's head. Brings Peyton Ramsey and the Indiana offense back out.
Yeah, for the defense, I think the most impressive part, we've had Terrell Smith and Jordan Howden, 2 true freshmen playing on the back end. And they've done a really nice job of tackling, an improvement from last week, stopping some of the big plays, and also staying home and sniffing out reverses just like this to Walt Fillier. Big tackle for a loss. And this young secondary has found a way to be disruptive for Peyton Ramsey today. And if you're Peyton Ramsey, he's averaged about 5.5 yards per completion in the first half. He's going to have to take some shots down the field and loosen up this defense that's elected to play a little more man-to-man and tighter to the line of scrimmage.
That number well below his season average, which was already one of the lowest in the conference. Try to toss it up towards the boundary. Into the hands of Stevie Scott. Thomas Barber is there, the linebacker, leading tackler last year when he finished 3rd in the conference.
And coming into this game, we knew that that was something Peyton Ramsey was going to do. A lot of shorter throws and quicker throws, but when you're getting this tight coverage like we see right now up at the line of scrimmage from Minnesota, got to take shots. It's difficult to get some of the quicker throws against that kind of coverage.
Ramsey rolling and looking for Hale. PJ Fleck right there to say that was out of bounds. We've seen that a couple of times in the first half from Ramsey. Throws that were just off, either underthrown, overthrown, this time slightly out of bounds.
Right. Well, I think this is out of his comfort zone too. Playing from behind like this and trying to force it too much down the field is really not his forte. But you know, with the disparity in scoring right now, being down by 15 like they are, they've got to take some chances.
Going on 3rd and 7, lopped in off the fingertips of Ja'Shawn Harris, who had 4 catches in the first half. Jacob Huff there on the coverage.
Had a chance on the crossing route to Ja'Shawn Harris, just leaves it a little bit high outside of the reach, and you got to be careful of that as well. Some tip balls like that, if Jacob Huff keeps his feet, he might pick that ball off.
Indiana was so good on first down early in this game. They were 5 for 6. Since then, 0 of 4. Whitehead on the punt. Ooh, blocked. And smashed at the 30.
So far today, we've mentioned the special teams miscues for Indiana, but we've also mentioned the energy with which Minnesota is playing. And boy, are they flying around tonight on the defensive side of the ball, and now in special teams creating a game-changing play and regaining possession right around the 25-yard line. And if you're Tom Allen, again, from all the resources you've invested in special teams, from a full-time coordinator that focuses exclusively on special teams, and also putting some of your best players on these units as well, you expect better results than this.
It was Justice Harris' second block punt this year by the Gophers. And now tremendous field position. Ball's at the 24. Excuse me, the 28. Morgan trying to spin, gets in trouble. Finds Brooks out of the backfield, back to the original line of scrimmage and a couple more yards.
That's a nice job saving the play. We talked earlier about the fact that Zach Annexstad, the previous starter, was dealing with some ankle issues for the better part of the year, and so his mobility was virtually gone. And so this element here of extending plays as a quarterback in this offense, they haven't had for a few weeks. They able to put a nice move on the defensive lineman and put themselves in a manageable second down situation.
Terrific numbers tonight for Morgan, his first career start. Brooks looks like he's got enough for the first. Very close. They'll move the chains.
Well, Shannon Brooks has had some success running behind the interior of that offensive line, led by the center, Jared Weiler. Pro Football Focus had him, or excuse me, for PFF College, had him as the top center in the conference versus, or in the run game as a run blocking center.
Weiler, a double major, prepping for his CPA exam. Back of the arms of Brooks. He springs free, and he's in for the touchdown, his first of the season.
Well, it's a great read by Tanner Morgan. They run the zone read, and Cam Jones, number 34, comes off the edge for Indiana, and he's a little bit wide and leaves that void. That gap is wide open for Shannon Brooks to take it in for a touchdown.
Over Majette to begin at the 25. We go back to the touchdown run.
Yeah, we talked about Cam Jones coming off the edge, and if you watch him at the bottom of your screen, number 34, he's going to blitz off the edge over the slot receiver, and Tanner Morgan holding that mesh point just long enough forces him to stand flat-footed and creates a nice little crease for Shannon Brooks to go pretty much untouched into the end zone. Holding that outside gap is obviously critical. When you have that zone read look and a mobile quarterback to threat to keep the football, it keeps that backside a little bit softer and gives him a chance for a running lane.
Ramsey looking to throw over the middle, and it is intercepted. Off-target throw. Now the Gophers have it.
Yeah, it was Luke Timian on the option route, and he turns around, and Peyton Ramsey just leaves this thing just outside, and Jordan Howden is able to wrestle that ball away. Look, the true freshman Jordan Howden has been being put in an interesting situation tonight with the absence of Antonio Chenault, doing a little more man-to-man coverage in the slot, and he's done a really nice job making plays for this defense.
He was an all-state long jumper and relay runner in high school in Las Vegas. His first career interception. And another short field for Tanner Morgan in this Minnesota offense. Now, for as much as Indiana on defense has taken the ball away, 17 on the season, that's their now 15th turnover. Brooks, a pretty run for a first down. He picks up 13.
Yeah, that's been one of the more interesting developments here tonight. We came into this game knowing Mohamed Ibrahim would not be playing, thinking we'd see a lot of Bryce Williams tonight. Not sure if we'd see Shannon Brooks make his debut for this season, and boy, has he been impressive.
He's 2 yards shy of the century mark. And this drive presents an opportunity for what would be his second touchdown tonight. They give it back his way, big hole fumble. And Indiana, well, they come up with it inside the 5, and they do. Their second fumble recovery tonight. And both have been on gives to Shannon Brooks.
And like we mentioned before, it's a little wet out here tonight, so ball security can become an issue. But I think part of this as well is that he just hasn't been hit a whole lot the last few months. Sometimes you got to get that out of you. I'm sure PJ Fleck knows. He's disappointed that he's seen 2 of them pop out with Shannon Brooks, but you don't get a ton of time. These are the kind of things that happen, especially for a guy that has his ball or his hands on the ball as often as he's had tonight. Another unfortunate turnover for the Minnesota offense.
It was Raheem Lane who fell on top of it. Long field ahead for Peyton Ramsey and this Hoosiers offense. Ball on the 2. Stevie Scott almost down to the 5. You look at the rushing numbers for Indiana. First quarter, and they ran for 88 yards. And they've barely run for 10 yards since.
Yeah. Well, Minnesota's been able to possess the football for the most part, and they've taken Indiana out of their rhythm and out of their pass-run balance as well.
You look at games this year where Indiana has been in it, or has even won, and Stevie Scott has been about a 100-yard rusher. That was the case last week, 138 and 2 scores in a very close loss, nearly an upset win at home against Penn State. Really his coming out party in conference play. Twice he's been the Big Ten Freshman of the Week. Ran for over 200 yards against Virginia early this season. On 3rd and 6. Ramsey, deep throw, sideline over Nick Westbrook, who was looking for a flag, and one comes down.
I think they might have had offsides on the outside. I think Tom Allen's a little frustrated too, because it looked like Terrell Smith might have grabbed on to the receiver down the field. He's looking for a PI call.
Offside. Defense number 69. 5-yard penalty. Repeat 3rd down.
Boye Mafe, the freshman.
It's a nice job getting the ball snapped and getting the free play and getting a chance to chuck it down the field with nothing to lose. Something you'd like to see more often from some of these offenses. Take advantage of guys jumping off sides. I think Terrell Smith got away with one out there, grabbing onto the receiver as well.
Well, Westbrook certainly felt like that happened. 3rd and 1. Scott picks up the yardage, gets a first down.
Well, prior to that fumble by the Minnesota offense, about to make the comment that they were in total control as far as tempo of the game. They were dictating pace. They were deciding. They were having success running and passing the ball. And on the flip side, Indiana's just been in a lot of uncomfortable situations and not able to really get Stevie Scott going since early in the game with this deficit.
Ramsey to the boundary. And the catch is made there by Timian. His first catch of the second half. That's good for a first down.
And the absence, in this situation, the absence of Michael Penix is worth mentioning. He got a lot of quality time last week against Penn State before his injury and showed a really strong arm and ability to push it down the field. Unfortunately, they lost him to an ACL. But this is a game with this kind of deficit where we probably would see him if he were healthy.
Over the middle, first touch tonight, Reese Taylor, who because of the injury to Penix has become the backup quarterback. He was a prolific high school quarterback, games just 2. Under 3 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. Only offense tonight for Indiana, and 3 field goals. Drives it to Westbrook, who makes a leaping grab for a first down. Kind of gave himself up a little bit for that, a gain of 12.
Great job by Nick Westbrook jumping up and snagging that ball. A little behind him. He's a little up and away, able to jump up and use those big, strong hands and bring that thing down.
That's his first catch tonight. Westbrook coming off an ACL suffered last year. It's a shy of the first down as a flag comes in. Finds Timian.
Carter Coughlin was able to.
Offense number 62. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
On Brandon Knight. Over 20 career starts for Knight, the right tackle.
On the right side of the screen, I believe it's Carter Coughlin. And it tries to come off that inside shoulder of Brandon Knight. He grabs on.
First offensive penalty for Indiana tonight. To the sideline, Timian gets down in a hurry. Jordan Howden
Pass
there on the
complete to
coverage.
Now this drive, Indiana's been able to take advantage of some of these man beater routes. That side to the trip side. Luke Timian runs the out route from the inside receiver position. The outside 2 guys just clear it out for him for a nice pitch and catch from Peyton Ramsey.
Ramsey loses the ball. Was he down?
The ruling on the field is the ball carrier was down before the ball came out. 3rd down.
Oseze Atomewa, the freshman out of Indianapolis, jumped on top of it, but ruled down.
Gary Moore does a nice job of getting his hands inside and driving them back. And it's worth mentioning, too, one of the best interior defensive linemen for this Minnesota defense, O.J. Smith, is also out as well. So they're getting a nice push up front without one of their better players.
Ramsey tucked, now decides to throw and finds Taylor. Let's get a gain out of it. Ramsey gave up on the pass early and then got rid of it. Taylor's second catch this drive. True freshman who won Indiana's Mr. Football last year. 4th and 8. Whitehead on to punt. Douglas to return for the Gophers. Douglas on his own 12. Caught at the 11. 16 seconds left in the third quarter. We'll be right back. Coming up tomorrow on Fox, number 20 Wisconsin takes on Northwestern, then Kyler Murray, and number 8 Oklahoma battles K-State. College football doubleheader kicks off tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Fox, or watch anywhere, of course, on the Fox Sports app. First and 10 ball on the 11. We've already seen a 99-yard drive tonight by Minnesota. Resulted in a touchdown. Back on the ground. This time Bryce Williams. We haven't seen much of Williams since the first quarter. And now Indiana says that they've got it. That's Brian Fitzgerald, who forced a fumble earlier.
The ruling on the field is the runner's forward progress was stopped before the ball came out. That's the end of the third quarter.
There goes PJ. Muhammad Ibrahim, Rodney Smith, Bryce Williams, and now Shannon Brooks.
Only a 27-yard punt. Ramsey, open man, finds Hale, who's wrapped up right away. Keanu Durr, who kind of been marked as a guy who missed some tackles last week, a week where Minnesota missed 18 tackles. He's had some good ones tonight.
Yeah, look, this defense has fallen off quite a bit in Big Ten play. I mean, 21 touchdowns allowed during Big Ten play, and the average length of each, 31.5 yards. They've clamped down tonight.
Taking a shot here, over the shoulder catch, Donovan Hale. His 5th touchdown reception on the season to lead the Hoosiers. That one good for 43 of the score. First touchdown tonight for Indiana.
That's a great throw by Peyton Ramsey, and Donovan Hale winning at the line of scrimmage and giving him a place to throw the football. That's Donovan Hale's 5th receiving touchdown of the year. He came into this game leading this team in receiving touchdowns. A big body down the field that can make those kind of plays, and that's what we were talking about, taking advantage of those one-on-one matchups. You got to give Peyton Ramsey a chance to push the ball down the field a little more, and Donovan Hale makes a big play.
Going for 2. Ramsey now flushed. Running, throwing across his body in traffic. Incomplete.
DB commit in the Big Ten since 2010.
That is correct.
See how you measure that, I don't know, but that's pretty cool.
Brought out by Demetrius Douglas. I'm going to go back to 2013. These two teams squared off.
Last time they met.
And this was a pretty big comeback. As you see the score, celebration for Minnesota.
Jared Gill up there in the box. These teams don't play each other very often. 2013 was the last time, and then before that was 2008. And 08 is the last time they played each other here in Minnesota. That interdivisional matchup between the Big Ten West and the Big Ten East.
The lead that was blown by the Gophers. They came back to win. Morgan throwing high. That time over the middle for Rashad Bateman. Do you think they started to have the conversation here? Tanner Morgan, of course, making the start tonight. Zach Annexstad, true freshman walk-on, the starting quarterback until tonight. An internal injury at Nebraska in the final moments of the first half. Had to go to the hospital in Lincoln. Fortunately, was okay. Was able to get on the team flight back to Minnesota, but especially on a short week with a Friday night kick. Annexstad not available to play tonight, so it's Tanner Morgan, who originally committed to P.J. Fleck when he was the coach at Western Michigan, followed Fleck here to Minnesota. You start to wonder if, with the success we've seen tonight, if there's conversation for Tanner Morgan to get another start.
Well, I think for Zach Annexstad, to be fair, this guy, you just got to give him chances to get healthy. I mean, he's had a lot of injuries this year.
Serious foot injury.
Yeah, the worst was this, midsection injury he sustained against Nebraska, but foot, ankle, he's had a number of different issues that have really hampered his ability to get outside the pocket and extend plays. And he's been more of a statue at times over the course of the year, and that's not the fault, it's not his own fault. And so allowing him to get healthy with a quality player, Tanner Morgan's an advantage for Minnesota.
Brooks, big hole, Bricks out past midfield. Williams, a true freshman. Of course, this is the youngest team in the nation, Minnesota. And he fumbles the ball. Indiana says they've got it. It's their 3rd fumble recovery on the night. Brian Fitzgerald, who forced one earlier, does it again. Juwan Burgess comes up with it.
You're going to take another look at this and find out. Obviously, it was a fumble, but maybe find out if somebody from Minnesota had possession of that ball on the ground. And Bryce Williams definitely did not right there. When he jumped on it, that ball popped out again. Tough to tell from that angle, but I don't see anything that would indicate anybody other than Indiana had the football.
Meanwhile, Raekwon Jones looked like he really got banged up on this play, number 7. Tries to jump on it late. Third lost fumble for the Gophers. Of course, Indiana leading the conference in forced turnovers. A jet upended. Coney Durer right there. He's had a pretty busy night.
Yeah, the other thing Indiana's done a good job of is accounting for Carter Coughlin. They run a game with him there up front. He swings all the way around, and Wes Martin picks him up nicely. It's a disruptive player that hasn't really had a chance to get to the quarterback much today.
On 2nd and 5, and up for the first down, finding Timian, his 6th catch. Well, we saw Shannon Brooks to walk off the field after looked like a non-contact injury, he's out of the tent now, was in the tent for a moment. Timian again. Of course, the hope was if you're Minnesota, you have Brooks coming back. He's healthy and ready to roll. You would have Mohamed Ibrahim after this week as well, unable to play tonight because of injury. Ramsey's completed his last 11 passes now. Finds Majette out of the backfield, just shy of the first down. Blake Cashman there with the tackle. Majette does not run the ball very much, but is an active pass catcher out of the backfield. 3rd and 1. Ramsey is going to tuck. He picks it up and tiptoes out of bounds. First down, Hoosiers.
And we talked about the mobility of Peyton Ramsey not having anything down the field, his ability to extend plays. Carter Coughlin gets trapped inside, and there's nobody that has any contain. He picks it up with his legs. One thing he does really well is keep those eyes down the field on receivers. He's always trying to extend plays to throw.
Does so here, and he finds the end zone. Ty Fogel, his 2nd touchdown catch this year, good for 37 yards.
And it's good to see the Indiana offense elect to take these shots. We saw the one earlier with Donovan Hale, and now Ty Fogel. We talked about Minnesota's defense playing really tight to the line of scrimmage, and they've been able to take advantage of some mismatches there now for a Minnesota secondary that has had their share of issues. They've been better for the most part of tonight, but over the course of Big Ten play, they've had their share of issues. I kind of wonder about
time. Back to the man who got him there. Fogel catches the 2-point conversion. Indiana making some noise with just over 10 minutes to play.
One possession game.
31-23, Minnesota leading. Things getting interesting here tonight. Indiana with a couple of touchdown strikes. Donovan Hale earlier for 43 yards. Now Fogel for 37. Peyton Ramsey throwing the ball a little more distance here in the 4th quarter.
Well, Minnesota's 3 turnovers right now are looming large. You give the football away, especially in the 4th quarter. You allow a team like Indiana to get themselves back in the football game.
To kick it away. Demetrius Douglas lost a piece of gear there, shy of the 25.
We talked about the Indiana receivers taking advantage of matchups. Ty Fogel, who's really come on nicely for the Indiana offense over the last few weeks, just runs right by Justice Harris. Not able to get any hands on him. Let a guy run like that with free access at any level of Division I football, they're going to make a play on you. There has to be some disruption at the line of scrimmage or something to account for the fact that he's standing flat-footed at 10 yards and lets a receiver run right by him.
Under 10 minutes to play. And the rain really picking up now. It's been raining all night, but maybe another interception, another turnover forced by Indiana. This time it's Brian Fitzgerald, his 3rd interception this season. He forced a fumble earlier. 3 forced fumbles, now a pick for the Hoosiers.
He anticipated that thing really well and stepped out in front of the football. And Aaron, I was just about to make the comment that this Minnesota offense is in a tough spot with how well, as you see there, the interception. I don't think Tanner Morgan ever sees him. And the difficult spot this Minnesota offense is in with how well Shannon Brooks had been playing. He's now out of the game as far as we know. We haven't seen him come back into the football game. Bryce Williams fumbles, so there's a trust issue there in all likelihood in giving the true freshman more carries. Because right there at 9.5 minutes left, you'd like to see them put together one of those long drives they've been doing over the course of the game. And unfortunately, they turn it over and give the ball back to Indiana in their own territory.
3 turnovers, the Gophers' last 4 possessions. Ramsey with good starting field position. Swings it out. This is Walker out of the backfield. Not many touches tonight. True freshman. Earl Smith forces him out of bounds.
And what you have here is all the momentum has shifted back to Indiana. And you got a quarterback in Peyton Ramsey that now is very confident after 2 big touchdown throws to Donovan Hale.
Down the sideline, and if that is caught, it's not. It would have been a tremendous catch to Hale. Terrell Smith there with him stride for stride. Of course, it was Hale who had the 43-yard touchdown catch earlier this 4th quarter.
And once again, it's the difference from the first half to the second half, with the Indiana offense willing to take some shots down the field, allow those receivers to try to make some plays. That time again, Donovan Hale, the big body. And before that, Ty Freifogel. But they feel good about these matchups, especially in the second half on the outside.
That snaps 13 straight completions for Ramsey, which is really saying something at any point, but especially in this rain. And he 9. Off balance throw, and it's intercepted on the other end. Jacob Huff.
Aaron, I think it was a communication issue. I think Peyton Ramsey expected Ja'Shawn Harris over the middle of the field to break his route off. You see him talking to one another right there. He thought he was going to break it based on the single high safety. That's what they're talking about right there. Based on where that safety is located, he expected him to come flat across the field, because you usually don't take that middle of the field read when there's a safety in the middle of the field. So that's a communication issue, and you can tell Peyton Ramsey fully expected him to run a crossing route at about 12 yards instead of running right into that safety.
No, how huge is that interception?
The play is under further review.
You know, oftentimes with read routes with a slot receiver like that, if there's a middle of the field safety standing right there, usually if it's a read route, usually it involves you breaking across his face and running like a 12-yard crossing route, not running a post right into that safety. And that's what Ja'Shawn Harris does. It's a communication issue. The question is he able to secure that ball without it hitting the ground? He sold it. Give him that. That's half the battle right there.
I mean, this really is one of the unfortunate themes this season for Indiana, isn't it, Evan? For as many takeaways as they have, they lead the conference, they are among the most criminal in giving the ball up.
Yeah.
Especially in interceptions.
When you're number 1 in the Big Ten at takeaways, if you're Indiana.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. It's an interception. First down, Minnesota.
When you're number 1 on the field, when you're number 1 in the Big Ten in takeaways, but you're towards the bottom half of the conference in turnover margin, which would be your takeaway, the difference between your takeaways and your giveaways, that doesn't speak very well to you taking care of the football on the offensive side of the ball either.
Now, here comes a question for Minnesota. How do you get this ball going on the ground without Shannon Brooks? Brooks, 154 yards rushing. The rest of the team, 11 carries for just 24. And Bryce Williams, who started this game, gets the carry here, had a fumble earlier. Now, to be fair, Brooks had a pair. Pick up just one.
It's a good job up front there by Jerome Johnson and that defensive front getting into the backfield. And if you're PJ Fleck, you're in a bind. You've lost your star running back for tonight, as far as we know. And the trust level with Bryce Williams right now, keep in mind, this is a true freshman that just fumbled a couple possessions ago. So it puts him in a really tough spot as far as how to orchestrate what he hopes will be a long clock-eating drive here to get closer to the end of the football game.
Williams opened the season 4th on the depth chart, averaging fewer than 5 carries a game last 5 weeks. Gain of 3. 3rd and 6 coming.
And if you're Kirk Ciarrocca, the offensive coordinator for Minnesota, picked by your quarterback on the last possession, 2 possessions ago, your young running back fumbles, you're a little trigger shy too. And the weather's a factor. You don't want to turn the ball over in your own territory, but you got to stay aggressive and stay ahead of the sticks to win a game like this as it comes down the stretch.
Tanner Morgan has completed his 3 passes in the second half. Sets up A screen, sniffed out and gang tackled. Trying to find Ottman Bell. Raheem Lane, one of the first there. It's a loss of 2.
Chris Ottman Bell has had some success in the screen game as a receiver there. They try to run the tunnel screen, and it actually timed up pretty well, but Raheem Lane identified that one. That's something they've probably seen on film from Minnesota as well. He identified it really quickly and goes up and makes a play and forces a punt.
Halloween. Now plenty of turnovers on both sides here in the fourth quarter. And off to Scott. Scott falls forward, drags a man. That was Gary Moore who went for a ride. Pick up a 4. Yards per play this quarter. Indiana dominating. 10-4. 4.5 for the Gophers. Majette, the running back, on 2nd and 6. They throw his way. Majette puts on the brakes, stutter steps. Giant first down, 3rd and short coming.
Aaron, you mentioned it earlier. I think defenses have indicators based on personnel. When Mike Majette is in the game, it seems pretty frequently that it's going to be a pass. That seems to be a pretty strong indicator. You talked about turnovers too. I mean, weather has played a factor in the ball popping loose with ball security, but in the passing game, the interceptions have just been miscommunication between quarterback, receiver, not seeing certain defenders. It's had anything to do with the weather. It's just been miscommunication, especially the one we saw with Peyton Ramsey and Ja'Shawn Harris.
Design rollout, Ramsey to the boundary. And enough for the first down. He's able to find Ja'Shawn Harris.
It was a really well-designed play. Nick Westbrook runs the snag route over the slot receiver's position and ends up running kind of a natural pick for the route that was coming out of the backfield for a flat. Gives him a chance to catch it and turn upfield and get the first down.
Deep sideline and out of bounds. Looking for Fry Fogel, who had the touchdown earlier this quarter. Tony Durr with him stride for stride.
That was man-to-man across the board, and Peyton Ramsey got pressure. Both linebackers came. They brought 6, and I think he got rid of that ball a little quicker than he wanted to. He forced him to throw it a little bit wide. Didn't give his receiver a chance. The receiver had a step on the defender as well. He puts that thing down the field a little more. Might be looking at another touchdown.
Early movement.
Offside. Defense number 45 entered the neutral zone and caused the offensive player to false start. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
Rare blunder on Carter Coughlin. Big Ten sack leader.
Yeah, each of the last 2 snaps, we've seen Minnesota come out in a single high look and man-to-man across the board. We're going to do it again there. Looks like now they're going to go more of a two high safety look. But still, I mean, there's some man-to-man opportunities here for the Indiana offense to take advantage of with these receivers.
Westbrook, some nice body control there to reach across and make that catch. Picks up 6. Pick up the first down. This drive kind of feels like a mulligan for Indiana after being in very similar field territory their last drive, then the turnover, then getting the ball back. Chance to tie here late. Ramsey tucks, runs. Pick up a few.
And if I'm Indiana, I want to keep pretty good tempo here, because if I'm able to put the ball in the end zone and tie the football game, Minnesota's been struggling offensively. So you have to bet that they feel like they can get the ball back before the end of the game and have a chance to score and win this thing. So I'd like to, if I'm Tom Allen, I'm keeping plenty of tempo here to try to push the ball down the field.
Giving up a lot of ground. And he just gets rid of it. Smart play there by Ramsey. Tamela with the pressure. 3rd and long now for Indiana. Just block this situation, just 4-down territory?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe. Well, they got to put themselves in a decent, manageable position here on third down to find out if it's worth throwing. They're going to get man-to-man across the board here. Somebody needs to make a play. Minnesota is challenging these wide receivers. At your bottom of the screen, challenging them up at the line of scrimmage, and up top, they're playing off a little more in the slot.
Ramsey needs 9. Looking for Westbrook down the sideline, and it's incomplete. Smith was with them down the boundary.
Really nice job by Jacob Huff getting over and making the play. And one thing Peyton Ramsey has to keep in mind is he has to hold that safety with his eyes. He immediately moves to the right side of the field and lets that thing go. And Jacob Huff reads him the entire way and goes over and breaks up the play. With a single high safety, hold him in the middle of the field with your eyes and then go back to your receiver and don't give that safety a chance to make a play.
Huge play coming here, 4th and 9 going for it. Minnesota has not been good defensively on 4th down. They've allowed 7 or 9 attempts this year.
Same coverage. Someone has to win on the outside.
Get the snap off just in time. Ramsey picking a tuck and run, and he does. Ramsey's got the first down. He is still on his feet. He dives, and he is just out of bounds. Doing it himself, the pickup of nearly 30.
We talked about winning the matchups in man-to-man. The other matchup is when everyone turns their back to the quarterback in man-to-man coverage. You don't account for the cornerback. No one holds contain on the outside. And Peyton Ramsey gashes the Minnesota defense on 4th down and put him inside the 5.
Big call by the official to gain a 29. Scott up the middle, touchdown Hoosiers. What a ball game.
Boy, credit to this Indiana squad for fighting back the way that they have. And the catalyst for this was the turnovers by Minnesota. Turnovers, especially in the 4th quarter, when you have a lead like that, completely change the game. And Indiana's a 2-point conversion away from tying this ball game.
And they converted their last 2-point conversion. They found Freifogel on a pass attempt. Empty backfield.
Peyton Ramsey's got to be aware of his ability to run here if he doesn't have anything.
Timeout Minnesota.
Timeout Minnesota. This is their first of the half. This is a 30-second timeout.
I don't know about you, Evan, but when Ramsey tucked and started to run, you're thinking, okay, he'll get just enough for the first down. I don't know if anybody saw it taking it down to about the 2-yard line.
Yeah, well, again, on the left side of the field, you saw that corner had his back to Peyton Ramsey, and you knew from where we were standing, he's still quite a ways down the field, and no one even realized in the secondary that he was running the football. And that's what that's the issue with man-to-man. And on that last play, right before the 2-point conversion, they had brought a receiver in motion to try to diagnose what the coverage was. You see a defender run with that receiver before the snap. You know it's man-to-man. And if I'm the Indiana offense and their offensive coordinator, Mike DeBoard, I'm in Peyton Ramsey's ear. If you see man-to-man and you don't have your first read, do not be afraid to run the football, especially if we spread the field out and go empty. You might even see a design quarterback draw if they spread it out too much based on the pre-snap look.
A 29-yard rush for Ramsey, a career long, trying to tie it here on the 2-point attempt.
One-on-one up top with Donovan Hale.
He is typically their red zone target. He and Westbrook. Looking right away to Hale. And Hale secures it, and this game is tied.
I'll tell you what, Aaron, I love the play call. One-on-one, way too often in college football, we see them fall back and throw the fade route in the corner of the end zone. That truly is a 50-50 ball. You might as well flip a coin whether the guy's going to come down with it or not. I don't understand why more often you don't see big receivers run slant routes on the goal line. Because what you do is you put that big body in between the defender and the football. That's exactly what they did right there. Donovan Hale, it's a big mismatch with him. And instead of running a fade and making him go make a play on a ball in the corner of the end zone, just let him box the defender out. He's got a lot of size on Terrell Smith, and the big receiver makes a play at a clutch time for Indiana's offense.
22 unanswered points from Peyton Ramsey and this Indiana offense, all coming this quarter.
Boy, I love that. I'll tell you what. The fade ball in college football drives me crazy sometimes when you see guys go back and just chuck it up in the corner of the end zone. I love using the big body on a slant on the goal line.
Now, why does that drive you mad?
It just drives me crazy because it's such a low percentage throw. A lot of quarterbacks in college don't really know how to throw that ball effectively. And that slant throw is an easy throw for Peyton Ramsey.
How about these turnovers for Minnesota?
We talked about the miscues, a couple of Shannon Brooks, the ball popping loose. Weather a factor, obviously. It's a little wet out there. And then Bryce Williams coming in. Hasn't seen much time in the second and third quarters as a result of what Shannon Brooks was doing. And then he just doesn't see the defender step in front of the football, and Tanner Morgan throws another interception, and turnovers is what has been the catalyst for this comeback for Indiana.
Now Morgan and this Gophers offense are having to suddenly put it in high gear, an offense that's been dormant this half, for this quarter in particular. Morgan, time, long throw, coming back, and incomplete. Now that's not what Demetrius Douglas is saying. Makes it 2nd and 10. Now, Tanner Morgan has completed just 4 passes in the second half.
Look, the Minnesota offense has not been able to get much going. Need to be careful here. They're throwing the ball, incomplete pass. They're stopping the clock. There's 3:50 left in the game. Indiana is chomping at the bit to get this football back. Minnesota needs to put together a drive and get some first downs at the very least and get this ball past midfield.
The pass over the middle and almost intercepted again, looking for Jake Paulson, who does not have a catch all season, the tight end. Freshman out of Louisville, Cam Jones was right there in the neighborhood, almost picked it off.
Yeah, his little pop pass off of play action. Obviously not something they do very often. By design, that play should work. It should get the ball. It should get the ball in his hands pretty quick. The Indiana defensive line was able to get their hands in the throwing lanes and stop the quick release of Tanner Morgan.
3rd and 10. Gophers at their own 25. Morgan trying to channel what he did in the first half.
Timeout.
Timeout called by Minnesota.
This is their second of the half. This is a 30-second timeout.
And one question I think you have to wonder for Minnesota, maybe not pertaining so much to this drive, but to previous drives when they were really just trying to run this clock out. Where has Seth Green gone? Their Wildcat quarterback, their battering ram at 6'4", 240.
Yeah, it's a great question because as we stand now, both on this drive and on the previous drive, you'd like to see him kind of grind something out and push the ball down the field. Whether or not they score is just taking time off the clock, especially on the previous drive when they had an 8-point lead. And Seth Green seems like he gives you a chance to do that with that 6'4", 240-pound frame, his ability to fall forward consistently in that Wildcat offense. And here we're seeing him come out right now. Oh, well, they're going to play him at receiver now, but
he has just one catch.
You got to wonder where that is. Yeah,
yeah.
You got to wonder where that is. That's a great point. And this Indiana defense is getting up and challenging these Minnesota receivers as well. We talked earlier about Indiana making plays offensively in man-to-man. Now Minnesota has to find a way to do that.
Third and 10 for Morgan. Overthrows his target. Indiana, Juan Burgess was wishing he got an interception.
Well, Indiana's done a nice job of disguising coverages these last couple drives. It appeared like it was man-to-man at the snap. Ended up being zone. Juwan Burgess steps down in the throwing lane, almost picks that ball off. And Tanner Morgan just seems out of rhythm. He seems uncomfortable in the first half, even part of the third quarter. He seemed to find that rhythm with Tyler Johnson, Rashad Bateman, a number of different guys, but he's been out of rhythm for the last few possessions.
Well, this quarter, he's 1 for 5 for -2 yards on the screen attempt. It's a friendly Gophers roll. 24. How about this comeback for Indiana?
Well, we talked about Peyton Ramsey taking advantage of matchups on the outside, right here with Donovan Hale. That was the kind of the one that got this offense going. Then later, to Ty Freifogel in the slot runs right by the defensive back. And here for the touchdown, or excuse me, the two-point conversion to tie it up.
You've had a pair of two-point conversions.
You got to give Peyton Ramsey credit for using his legs when he needs to, and also taking advantage of the matchups on the outside, but also Mike DeBoard for basically just challenging his receivers, their offensive coordinator, for challenging these receivers on the outside to win one-on-one matchups, and that's what they've done here in the fourth quarter.
A 51-yard punt. Puts the ball at the Indiana 24. Scott past the 30. Tripped up by Jacob Huff. It's a gain of 7 on first down. Now, how much tempo are you hoping to go with right now if you're Indiana? You have just over 3 minutes to play.
I think you got plenty of time. I think running the football is not a terrible thing right now as well. There's plenty of time. Logan Justice, his long on the year is 44 yards at Rutgers, their kicker. Coming into this game, he was 8 for 10, 80% on the year with field goals. It's about putting him in a manageable situation and keeping an eye on that clock in the process.
Getting loose. 3rd and 1. Back on the ground, and what a tackle for a loss. Blake Cashman, who else would it be for this Gophers defense?
Blake Cashman steps up at the line of scrimmage and shoots that gap and makes a play on Stevie Scott. He's probably been one of their more consistent defensive players all year long. They ask a ton of him. They almost never take him off the field. Sometimes they feel like they tax him a little too much in asking him to be both proficient in pass coverage and run stopping. But right there, he sniffs it out and makes a huge stop on 3rd down. He's going to force the punt, give his team another possession here in regulation with a chance to win it.
That's his 10th tackle. They have all been soloed tonight. Whitehead to boot it away. Wet ball on the ground. And Demetrius Douglas fortunate to fall on top.
With 4 turnovers tonight, a play like that by Demetrius Douglas will drive PJ Fleck absolutely crazy.
I bet he would have taken his tie off if this ball.
Well, you definitely want to catch that ball because you don't want to let it bounce back inside the 15 if it gets a good roll. So I don't blame him for thinking I got to catch this, but when it gets outside your framework like that, got to be careful. It could have been a disaster situation for them turning it over right there on that point of the field.
Brilliant first half for Tanner Morgan. It has not been the same in the second. And it's not just him, the entire Gophers offense. To pass on first down. Heaves it deep. Looking for a man. In stride. Gophers are going to the house. Rashad Bateman. 67 yards. Backbreaker.
Well, we talked about them trying to get Tanner Morgan comfortable, and Kirk Shiraka identifies a matchup in the slot with Rashad Bateman on Juwan Burgess, and Juwan Burgess stands flat-footed at about 12 to 15 yards, and Rashad Bateman just runs right by him. The true freshman, the guy they expect to be a star here at some point, makes the biggest play of his Minnesota career so far.
Just over 90 seconds to play. An offense that had been completely lifeless, completely dormant. Morgan had not passed for positive yards in the 4th quarter. Dials up one from 67 yards away for the score.
Like we said, Rashad Bateman all alone on the slot with Juwan Burgess standing flat-footed, expecting him to run an out-breaking route. And Rashad Bateman just runs right by him. And when you have no help behind you, you have to respect the deep speed of Rashad Bateman. You have to start to backpedal. You can't just let him run right by you. And Tanner Morgan does a nice job of hitting him in stride and not forcing him to slow down. So often we see that as well, throwing it behind him, allowing a guy to make a tackle. Great throw.
Bateman, the man who got the Minnesota Row the Boat tattoo on his forearm.
That's all in, right?
He won't be transferred anytime soon. And that's a happy man. Tanner Morgan, 3 touchdown passes tonight, first 3 of his career.
No. Look, this 4th quarter has come down to guys' ability to win one-on-one matchups. We've seen it a couple times from Indiana. Might be a little too late for them as Minnesota's able to match them with their star true freshman.
The youngest team of the nation. One of those freshmen, Rashad Bateman, with a possible game winner. Indiana with 1:34 to play, and Peyton Ramsey, who has been brilliant in the fourth quarter, looking for a little more.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what Minnesota elects to do defensively. The last drive, really the last couple drives, we've seen them get up and challenge those receivers, expose themselves a little bit on the back end. I would expect them to come out and play some kind of too high safety look and keep things in front of them a little more. Otherwise, Indiana's definitely going to take some shots with these receivers. They've had some success doing it. I think if you're Minnesota, you got to give some of these defensive backs help on the back end. That's what they're going to do.
Ramsey, and whistle dead. Flag on the field.
Game. Offense number 12. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
You got to understand the situation here too. Indiana's got 2 timeouts in their pocket. They're in 2-minute mode. Don't want to take a sack. And as best as you can, you got to get out of bounds if you're a receiver on the perimeter. If you're Minnesota, you got to do your best to keep them inbounds, force them to use those timeouts and run that clock.
Delay of game makes it 1st and 15 from the 20. Ramsey pressure, ball is out, and the Gophers might be on top. They are! What a last 60 seconds for Minnesota.
When you can drop your defense back in coverage like Minnesota was doing and playing that too high safety look and still get pressure on the quarterback with Gary Moore, it makes it really, really difficult. When you can generate pressure with that front four like they do right here, watch these guys staying after it. It's really difficult because you're dropping 7 back into coverage, and if you can get there with your front four, the quarterback is not going to have many options, and that's exactly what happens there with the front four of the Minnesota defense.
Now Coughlin, who leads the Big Ten in sacks, strips it loose. And Gary Moore, as we saw on the replay, didn't even know the ball was out until he twisted his neck, and it was right there in front of him.
Like we knew Carter Coughlin, we knew what he had done coming into this game. And those great pass rushers like that, they show up in those type of moments, in obvious passing situations where they can get after the quarterback, pin their ears back, and that's exactly what Carter Coughlin does right there.
Now Seth Green is in there, Wildcat quarterback, trying to chew
Timeout, Indiana. This is their second of the half. This is a 30-second timeout.
1 timeout remaining for Indiana, 1:21 to play.
Ball security is key here, obviously, and sticking with Seth Green and/or Bryce Williams and forcing Indiana to drain these timeouts and understanding that a field goal ends this football game.
Now, assuming Minnesota holds on and wins this game, if you're PJ Fleck, how do you feel after this one? You keep in mind they've lost their last 6 conference games dating back to last year. Fleck himself, as the Gophers head coach, is 2-11 in Big Ten play. They can get the win tonight, but it doesn't quite feel as good as it did when the fourth quarter started.
Well,
right?
There's no question. There's some things to fix. There's no doubt about that. He's going to have a laundry list of things he's going to want to go through tomorrow, assuming they hold on and win this game. But when you're building a program and you find a way to get a win in the fourth quarter, big plays by your young guy, Rashad Bateman, then generating a turnover, a win's a win.
Sure.
When you're building a program, don't ever think that a win won't be taken and celebrated like it will for this Minnesota Golden Gopher team. These Big Ten wins are tough to come by.
Green stretches it out to the 15. Gain of 1. Indiana will burn their final timeout. Oh, no, we got a flag.
Some stuff going on after the snap. It looks like Donnell Green was involved. Well, it's not on him. He's had a couple unsportsmanlike penalties this year, and I know that's why he didn't start today. PJ Fleck hasn't been very happy about that. I don't know how they're going to rule this, but he was involved in something that went on there post-snap.
After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct, defense number 95, will penalize half the distance to the goal. Automatic first down. This is number 95's first of the game.
It's on Brandon Wilson.
PJ Fleck has to be pleased about that. Donnell Green kind of turning the other cheek and walking away. Improvement. Didn't start today for that reason. Was able to walk away from that.
Green, when he was whistled for that same penalty last week at Nebraska, that was the 3rd time he'd been charged with that since the start of last year when Fleck took over. On this Gophers team, the youngest in the nation. 52% of their roster freshmen.
And you talk about, yes, mistakes were made in this game. Yes, they turned the ball over, but they were able to generate some turnovers on Indiana as well. And when your young team is able to hang on in the fourth quarter and make critical plays, even though there were mistakes, you're thrilled about it if you're PJ Fleck, because this is how your team grows up, is winning games like this. And this is part of the whole process that he talks about so much in building this football team, building this program, changing the culture, and getting things to where he wants them to be so they can have a sustainable model of success for a football program. Nothing better than the victory formation either. Best play in football if you're the winning team.
Final charge
Indiana
timeout.
takes his final timeout. Keep in mind, too, for PJ Fleck and the Gophers tonight, they played this game without their leading rusher, Mohamed Ibrahim, out for this game because of injury. Of course, we mentioned Zach Annexted, who has started every game to this point, a true freshman, injured, unable to play. So Tanner Morgan making his first career start. Redshirt freshman.
Well, Aaron, I mean, look at it. Look, your players of the game obviously are Tanner Morgan. You have Bryce Williams do some stuff. That's a true freshman. You have Rashad Bateman make the play of the game. That's a true freshman. And freshmen all over the place making an impact. And it's not always going to be perfect, but PJ Fleck references often, hey, I'm more concerned with how do these guys respond? We're going to fail as a young team from time to time, and he loves the way they've responded. And I think after a huge letdown, especially defensively against Nebraska, to come back here and really control this game for the better part of the game and find a way to win it in the fourth quarter is a huge step forward for Minnesota in this program.
And you hope for the Gophers this win does not come at a loss, a serious loss to Shannon Brooks, who had to leave this game because of an injury. Looked like a fairly serious one, although he was able to actually walk off on his own power. Young man coming off an ACL.
It's the non-contact injuries that, as a player, those scare you the most, because when you see a guy just kind of go, his legs go limp and he hits the ground and no one touched him, it's concerning. So obviously we wish him the best. He had been working back from an injury. It's unfortunate.
It was an incredible fourth quarter on both sides that would turn this game. Rashad Bateman, 67-yard touchdown catch from Tanner Morgan. And the first Big Ten win for the Gophers since last November. It snaps their 6th-game losing streak in conference play. What a game. 38-31 Minnesota wins for Evan Moore, Jen Hale, our entire crew. I'm Aaron Goldsmith. Glad you could join us from Minnesota. Back to Los Angeles for more post-game coverage.